Hey there, here's the exact 4-phase system that we use to close 30 to 40% of our workshops or webinars to generate over 6 figures in revenue for our clients. Now, most of you right now are relying on a book or call consultation or a trial funnel, but you end up wasting a ton of leads who are tired of seeing the same offer again and again on their ads timeline. So a good 70-80% of people don't end up replying you, right? They ghost you, they don't want to reply you, and you end up only being able to close 20% of the leads that come in. You end up wasting a ton of them. So instead, what we do is we use workshops to get new leads in from the ads because this is a newer offer compared to the old boring same consults and trials. At the same time, we convert these people who don't respond to the webinar so that we can get paying students. Ultimately, what we're doing is maximizing the leads that you're getting. So just by hosting 2 to 4 workshops, we've generated an extra 5 to 6 figures in revenue for our clients. This works even if you're doing it for the first time or charging at a huge premium or 7.5k per student. So you can see over here, 122k in 2 months, 63k in 1 month. Now, I've been able to do this simply because I've invested tens of thousands to learn from the best stage closers in the world, and I want to give them credit, right? Melvin, Russell Brunson, and Jason Flatlin. Because what I've done is I've just learned from what they taught and then applied it in the context of education. If you don't know by now, my name is Darius, founder of EdScaling, the first and only chief enrollment partner that scales education businesses like yours via in-house enrollment strategy, systems, and staff. On average, all of our partners who work with us for a year have an increase of 50% in revenue. But what I've realized, right, is through working with them, is that most of them either suck at webinar closing or they weren't doing any webinars, right? So when I say they suck at webinar closing, they're closing at less than 10%, right? If they have 100 students, they only close like 10 or even less than 10, 5 sometimes. So they end up wasting a ton of leads in their CIM, or they end up wasting a ton of leads that show up on the webinar. So here's the reason why most educators fail in this, is because they have this thing called the overteaching syndrome. If a workshop or webinar is 90 minutes, right, they're going to spend 80 minutes teaching strategies, tips, techniques, but then they don't end up selling, or they use the last 10 minutes to rush to sell or awkwardly sell their program. So this is what happens when you overteach. When you overteach, is your audience becomes so busy in processing the information and thinking, how do I apply the strategies? How do I apply the techniques? And they end up not knowing how to go about making the next decision, which is to work with you. So the more you teach, right, the less likelihood that they'll make a decision because they're too busy processing the information. So here's the uncomfortable truth why most people overteach. It's because they're uncomfortable with selling. And if that's you, then this is very important for you. So most of the time, people overteach have the hypothetical thinking that if I teach well, the students will want to learn from me. This works extremely well when you're creating YouTube, TikTok, articles like what I'm doing right now, right? You create content, right? You don't really have to ask for much because people will realize, hey, your content is pretty good. How can I work with you? But that's not the case when you're doing a workshop or you're doing a webinar, because at the end of the day, you're going to ask for them to join your programs or your classes. So in reality, when you overteach, right, people start thinking, that was good, but I'm unsure of the next step with you, because teaching creates short-run interest, but selling creates long-run commitment. So I repeat, teaching creates short-run interest, right? In the 90 minutes, you can go about getting them interested in the topic you're teaching, right? But selling creates a long-run commitment, them joining you for the next few months, for the next year to learn and transform under you. And most people misunderstand sales. They think that sales is all about trying to convince everyone to buy. But that's kind of like trying to convert someone into your religion, or someone trying to convert you into their religion. And the point is, you realize that the world has many religions. Does that mean that everyone sucks at sales? No, it's not. It's the case that you can't really convert everyone into a single religion. So selling is about inviting the right students to transform with you over the next few months and the year. So if you teach for 90 minutes without selling, the sad truth is that you won't have anyone to transform for 1 year. So then my question a lot of times to people is, do you want to just teach for 90 minutes, or would you want to be able to transform someone for 1 year? If you want to transform people, then you need to go about selling. So the goal at the end of the day is to sell the long-run transformation. Sell the long-run transformation, then invite the right students to come on the transformation journey with you. So there are 4 phases of a high-converting workshop webinar. Now, there is a hook, there's a position, there's enlighten, and there's offer. Like I see over here, it's 10%, 10%, 60%, 20%. It just means that what part and what time that you want to use from the workshop webinar to focus on each of the section. Okay, so the hook, we spend about 10%. This answering who is this for. The position is why you're special. Enlighten is what makes your method special. And offer is how your offer transform them. The easiest way to remember this is who, why, what, then how. Now, what we do for each client is scripted slide for slide, right? You can see below, right? But it's all personalized and different. So I'll be going through with you the main principles for each phase, right? Rather than, go through every single word for word here. Okay, so let's start with phase 1. Who is this for? Now the goal over here is to get qualified attention at the start. So hook, right, is kind of like garnering the right people to climb a mountain. So you realize this what happens during a workshop or during a webinar. First of all, when you want to climb a mountain, you need to find the right people to go about wanting to climb a mountain. Not because not everyone wants to go about climbing a mountain, right? Maybe you ask your friends, only like 1 or 2 of your friends want to be as crazy as you as climbing the mountain. So you only want to work with people who are committed in climbing the mountain. Now on the way while you're climbing the mountain, you will face many different problems, right? And these are the problems that your prospects also will face. And at the end of the day, once you solve those problems, you'll be able to reach the peak of the Mount Everest. So how do we use this at the start of the workshop to hook your audience in? So we focus in terms of the prospect, problem, and promise. Once again, we start off by sharing what are the traits of the students who have gotten the best results with you, and what are the traits of students with the lowest results. What we're doing is we're trying to attract your ideal, right, clients to go about paying attention to you, and then of course disqualifying those that aren't a good trait. So starting off all, what you want to do is in the workshop, you can go about sharing that, hey, how many of you guys would like to know what are the high performing traits of students that do well versus the students that don't actually do well in their exams? And you can go about sharing this. Now next, in terms of the problem, right? So problem, here are the challenges that you're facing at the moment, right? So at the current moment, maybe you have lack of foundations, right? You are studying really hard, but then you're not really getting the concept. You're revising a ton, but you're not able to memorize any of it. So even though you study for 8-9 hours, right, you end up forgetting it during your exams, whatever challenges you have. So you want to share about and highlight specifically the challenges that they're facing at the moment. Then on the next slide, right, in that sense, you can go about sharing, right, by the end of the workshop, you're going to know how to solve these problems I stated, and then achieve, when I say dream outcome, so dream outcome can be learning how to study much faster, right, or being able to get into the dream school that you want, or being able to get an A in terms of your subject, whichever the dream outcome is that you give for your particular student. So it depends from every different business. So you want to focus on the prospect, the problem, and the promise. This is the 3 things you need to do at the hook at the start. So this, you spend 10% of your time on this. Now let's move on to phase 2, which is position. It's all about, why you're special. The goal is to get them to buy into what you share. So in order for someone to know, like, okay, I should listen to you, is first of all, they need to accept that, hey, you are different, you are actually unique, you are special. That's the reason why I should go about listening to you. Because if you're just like any Tom, Dick, Harry teacher, right, that can be found in some other business, no one really wants to listen to you because you're just another average Joe. So the greatest pity of all, right, I realize is most people do a 1-pager introduction with the same proof as other educators. They're just saying like taught X years, impacted Y number of students, achieved whatever number of results, and then whatever degree in whatever university. So the problem is that it's very one-dimensional. The proof that they share is very one-dimensional. The only way you're going to sound different is if you have taught the longest number of years, largest number of students, and highest grades in the industry. And there can only be one of each. Most likely that isn't you. And if that's you, the thing is someday someone is still gonna beat the numbers that you have over here. So what we do is instead we use multi-dimensional proof, right? A lot of times most people like to focus on just their impact. So like what I state over there, the results, the number of students impacted, and then the number of years they taught. What we do is we focus on other dimensions, right? Your life, right? What do other people say about you, and what does the media say about you? So you realize there are 2 kinds of proof that are separated: internal proof and external proof. Internal proof is things that you can create. External proof is based on what other people say. So what you want to go about using other proof, right? It's not just results, the reach or your experience. You can go about sharing what the qualifications you have, what are the jobs that you took last time, what are accomplishments that you have, right? In terms of awards, whether it's scholarship, you're a top student, dean's list, yada yada, right? Next is in terms of what do other people say. Most people like to just focus on testimonials that our students and parents say. What you can also do is get respected endorsement, which means what professors in uni says, right? Some businesses do have that, right? So they have respected endorsement because so-and-so professor from a university has actually endorsed our program curriculum. It creates way more proof in whatever you're selling. Also, it can be industry peers, right? What other teachers or what other educators are saying about you creates a lot more credibility as well. Last but not least, also in terms of media. So media can be books that you have published, or news articles that you have been featured before, or even social media. So the thing is, social media, people is thinking like, oh, what do I go about sharing as proof for social media? Example, if you have created like over 100 plus videos that serve as a proof that, hey, I've been doing this for like many years, right? And my videos, right? It doesn't matter if you only have 100 views or you have thousands of views. Of course, you have thousands of views, that's great, because you can say that, hey, I've generated over 100k plus views on teaching, let's say, math. The thing is, it doesn't really matter even if you have low number of views. If you have low number of views for social media, you can always spin off in terms of emphasizing what kind of unique views you talk about on social media. Maybe on social media, what you specifically help people to solve is helping them to apply for scholarships, or basically helping them to get into their dream courses in their uni or inside the poly, or whether they're getting into their dream school. Or it can also be helping them to maybe get better study life balance. It can be the case. So it can be unique views that you have that other people don't have, and you're sharing those perspectives on social media. So it doesn't really matter even if you have 100 views or you have thousands of views. What's most important is that you are actually creating content and you're placing it out there. Because why? People can see that, hey, this is what you have been doing over the past few months or the past few years. Rather than, hey, I don't really know where this guy spawned from. It's just some educator that suddenly pop on my ad, and that's how I know this person. Very little credibility. So proof is not about what you say, but it's about what you have done. You realize that all these things over here is based on what you have done, not really based on what you say, right? Over here is what you have created. This is what other people say, and people can only say things about what you've done before. Does that make sense? So the proof is what you want to focus on, what you have done before, not what you say, but what you have done. Now, this is how you become the only one in the industry, right? We stack the proof, followed by the skills that you learn from the proof, and then followed lastly by the differentiated impact that you are able to create due to the skills. So I repeat again, you start off with the proof. So example over here, you have a first class honors psychology degree. So what skills have you gained from the proof? So you have refined your understanding of how people think, express their thought patterns in words through research papers and essays that you have wrote. Now, what's the differentiated impact that you're able to give your students due to the skills that you have honed? So you can teach unique thought patterns so that students can write refined essays that provoke the reader. Now that is a lot more special than, hey, I'm just an English teacher. Kind of makes sense so far? Are you following through on this? Okay, let me give another example, okay? So, example, right? This is one of our actual clients, right? So, he's a chemist, right? He was previously working as a chemist. So, he has been able to take chemistry concepts to real-world application. That's the skills he gained. Now, he also has other proof like lecturing large group sizes of 40 or 50 or even 60 or 70, right? So the skills that he has learned is he is able to engage students even with boring topics. Now, another proof like what I shared just now, 100k plus views on YouTube channel. So the skills that you have learned is that he's able to simplify complex topics to bite-sized knowledge. So at the end of the day, the differentiated impact that he's able to do is to engage students with everyday real-life examples so they can understand chemistry simply rather than forcefully memorizing it. So most of the other people's solution is just to memorize. What he does is getting them to understand it really simply without needing to do too much exercises or questions or those kind of drillings. Now, this is what we focus on a lot of time in terms of phase 3. So we talk about in terms of, hey, this is what makes me special, right? This is why I'm special. So now we're going to talk about what is the method, right, that you go about teaching that allows that differentiated impact. So the goal over here is to shift, right, your students' beliefs or your parents' beliefs by teaching them 3 unique strategies or solutions which you currently use for your students. So in a really oversaturated industry, which is where you're in now, your prospects will always compare you with others. To prevent that, you need to shift the belief that other solutions don't work and only your solution works best for them. Now, let me give you an example, right? So what you want to do is basically reduce, right, the belief that other solutions don't work, increase the belief that your solution works. And that means you have to explain why other solutions don't work. You have to explain why your solution works better than others. So in the example over here, example that we are teaching learning acceleration. Okay, let's say I'm teaching learning acceleration. One of my strategies I want to teach them in my workshop is to develop mind maps in that way. So I explain why is it that other solutions don't work. So the other solutions that other people use is usually linear notes where they write like lines of notes again and again and again. So when you create linear notes, you end up with dozens of pages of notes. So they are quite similar to what your school actually gives you. So creating them don't really make revisions faster. In fact, it's worse because you can't see the relationship between the chapters because you have like 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 pages, and you can't really see the relationship between each of the chapter. And so you'll suffer from exams, right? Because exams nowadays are testing more interlinked questions. So what am I doing? I'm explaining why the other solutions don't work. Now I'm going to explain why my solution works in the case of mind maps. So instead what we do is we develop one-pager visual maps. We focus on packaging all of it, right? All the visual note. There's just one page per chapter. So according to the Visual Teaching Alliance, what I'm doing over here is I'm explaining evidence, right? If I got research evidence, it's even better, right? We process visuals 60,000 times faster than text. So rather than have dozens of pages of notes, we just have 12 sheets of pictures. So if I have 12 chapters, I have 12 pages of notes rather than having 24, 36, whatever multiple of 12 pages. Because whenever you create linear notes, you end up having a much thicker stack than a one pager. Then now who would like to see me do it in real time? This is very important to actually show the demonstration, because you can talk all day about how different your solution is, but if you don't demonstrate, it's very hard for someone to believe you, right? So I can show you that, hey, this is the stack of notes that you'll most likely have for your schools, right? This is the stack of notes that I have. And I love this example because back when I was in A level, right? So when I taught, people economics, and I taught people how to reduce the number of notes, right? One of the biggest visual effects I always show them is this is probably the number of notes that you have, right? I get them to actually take out the notes, and they know like, okay, this is the notes, it's really, really thick. Now these are the notes that I'll give you, and this is pretty much what's needed in order for you to ace your exams and get your A in your A levels, right? And that's exactly what I did for my own A levels, right? I just literally had, I think 9 or 10 pieces of paper, and that's pretty much it, okay? So if you want to go deeper, right, based on whatever I've been sharing so far, like into the methodology, breaking down into the 3 solutions and steps, right, just click the link below to access the full doc. Okay, so let me just continue on, because I'm not going to go dive even deeper into details, because this will make it into like 3, 4, 5, 6 hours long. Now, phase 4 is basically the offer. The offer is about how your offer transformed them. Right, the goal over here is to show that their next best step is to work with you. So what I realized is that the higher confidence you have, right, when you are showing the offer, that means you're closing, is that you'll lead to a higher willingness to buy from the students. If you ever gone to any session, right, or anyone that's selling you, would you really want to buy from someone who say, okay, so I have this like solution, I have this like program here, right? So the price of this is so you won't buy from someone that's like that, right? If someone doesn't have the confidence to share with you what the offer is about, you won't end up working with them. So it's the same thing. A lot of times I realize most people trip up at the closing because they're nervous, they're unsure, they're like, crap, how do I really go about in terms of inviting them to this offer? So that's why I always get people to understand, and not just understand, but actually remember in terms of what's the sequence for closing. Because the more you remember the sequence of closing, the less likelihood that you'll trip on the words or whatever sentences that you're going to share. So this is the exact offer and closing sequence that I usually take through like all of our clients do. So first of all, after you teach, your 3 different unique strategies to them, so they have learned now, they're like, wow, okay, amazing. Now how do I go about working with you? So I always share that, hey, how many of you realize that you have learned a ton from today? Okay, cool. So everyone will raise up. They'll say, yes, I've learned a ton from today. How many of y'all think that you can take whatever I just shared and then do it by yourself and then get the results that you want? Usually no one will really say that. Everyone will be like, oh, okay, yeah, I don't think I'll be able to take everything you've shared and then do it myself. Right? It seems like I need some assistance. So I'll say that, okay, who would like to know how, we can get you from, whether is it you're C6 or whether you're AL6 or AL7, whichever grades that are at now, to whatever grades they want to have, or whatever problems they have to whatever desired situation they want. So then we share that, hey, okay, cool. So people will raise up and say, yeah, I would like to know more about your program. So when you have that permission to continue carrying on, it doesn't feel very forceful in selling. Most of the time it's because people don't invite the audience, right, to share the offer. That's the reason why it becomes very forceful, it becomes very awkward. People is like thinking like, oh, is he selling now or is he not selling? I'm very confused now. But if we clearly state out that, hey, okay, could I go about sharing with you this program? People are like, yes, now you go about sharing what you need to share. Now you won't feel any like guilt or awkwardness of actually sharing what you need to share. So you share the program, whatever you'll cover, right? From A to Z. We'll do step 1, we'll do step 2, step 3, right? Basically the strategies you have taught them is inside the program. Next, you want to talk about in terms of the bonuses. So the bonuses, right, it has to complement the core offer if you have bonuses, right? and it has to wow them. So I give you an example. Let's say I'm doing the mind maps, the visual notes, right? The visual maps. Rather than you go about creating the visual maps, right? So the bonus is that I will give you the visual maps that we have created, right? We spend thousands of dollars or thousands of hours investing into them and years of creating them. I will take these 12 pages of visual notes and I will go about giving them to you rather than you need to go and create the visual maps. Then boom, people are like, wow, I don't even have to create them. They will actually give it to me. So this is how you go about giving bonuses that complement the offer that you are sharing. Then what happens is that you want to share genuine scarcity. Keyword is genuine. Please don't fake the scarcity because people can tell. People aren't dumbasses. So make sure that you have actual scarcity, which means that limited spots left. For example, can be like, I've only left 5 spots left. Or it can be the case that I'm going to close this program soon. I only left 5 programs. This is the last workshop I'll be doing. So that is genuine scarcity. Then you want to share about what's the guarantee. The guarantee is what happens if this doesn't work. Now, if you aren't satisfied by the first class, we'll give you a full refund. Can be the case. So guarantee is basically what in the case that I don't really like learning from you, or learning from you isn't really the most effective. Usually the case is that you only have 1 to 2% who will activate the guarantee. Usually that doesn't happen, especially if you teach well. If you do believe you teach well, this shouldn't be a problem. Sometimes even 0% that activates the guarantee. So what happens if this doesn't work, right? If you don't like my voice, you don't like what I'm sharing, right? By the first session, we'll refund you back your cash, right? Or let's say if you don't improve your grade, your current grade, by the next 3 months, we will actually double the number of lessons that we give you, or we'll give you more one-to-one lessons. Whatever guarantee that basically prevents them from failing. Right? You want to have preventive solutions that prevent them from failing. So that's the guarantee. Next is the actual price. That means, outside, you'll be outside of this workshop webinar, if you go to our website, we will actually be selling this for 5K, for 6K, for 7K, whichever the price is. Now, the reason why I'm not going to charge you that, so the purpose over here, the reason why I'm not going to charge you that is simply because I want to fill up my program, right? And I want to take down in terms of these pages on the website. So that's one of the reasons. You want to share a genuine purpose. Another purpose can be, so the reason why I'm not going to charge you that is because I want to take in my last 3 more students to fill up my program. Another reason can be, the reason why I'm not going to charge you that is simply because this is the last time I'm going to be running in terms of workshop. Whatever reasons that you're going to give. So give them the reason for why you're price cutting. Because if you don't share the reason, then it feels very gimmickish. That, oh, okay, he's just trying to cut the price. Yeah, and people can't see through gimmicks. So you always want to give the real purpose of why you're doing a price cut. So you give the price reveal, right? This is, instead of paying 5K, 6K, or 7K, you're actually going to pay 3K or 4K. Or instead of paying 15K, 14K, you're actually only going to pay 6K, 7.5K. So you share the real price. Usually the drop, right, you want to have is about 30 to 40% of the drop. There isn't really a real percentage that you should drop, but you should definitely not drop like 10%. Because if you drop 10%, it doesn't really make much of a difference if it's just 10%. So you want a drop of 30 to 40% of the price. Last but not least, in terms of payment plan. So payment plan is that you can pay using, you can pay using a credit card, or you can pay installment, using PayNow or whatever it is for the next 2-3 months. So you want to tell people how can they go about paying. Because some people cannot pay you one shot. Some people can pay through installments. So you don't want to miss out people who can pay you through installments because maybe cash is tight or whatever concerns they have. Then last but not least, prevent objections. You don't want to wait till someone voices out a question, right? Like, hey, what if it's in the case that I miss out on a session? Then what happens then? You don't want people to voice out the objections. Reason being is because the moment they voice out the concern, right, it becomes a lot more impactful in terms of the decisions, because now they're voicing out a problem that you haven't go about solving yet. So you want to resolve the objections in advance. Before they can even sound out whatever questions or problems they have, you already answer the problems. So you answer the questions that are in your prospect's mind. Example, right? Hey, some of you guys might be asking, right? What happens if I miss a session? Now, if you miss a session, what happens is 2 to 3 hours after the class ends, we will actually send you a recording of this, and then we'll follow up with you to make sure that your child actually has watched the recording and they have actually done the homework. So we'll actually follow up with you on that. So that's one of the questions. You want to collate the list of questions. Why is it that it feels so natural and normal for me to share it? Reason being is because I've seen the same questions again and again. So I know like what the list of common objections that people share, right? What happens if I miss a session? What if my child is slow in learning? What if my child doesn't do well in terms of learning in group settings? So they have a lot of these questions and problems, and you want to answer them before they even raise up. Why? Because you probably already know what kind of questions they're going to ask. So solve it before they raise up, and they'll be a lot more impressed with in terms of, wow, okay, this person is clearly prepared. He's clearly prepared for whatever situation. No matter whatever I fire at him, it seems like this person is ready. So then I know that I can trust my child with this educator. Make sense? So this is an entire sequence that you want to go through in terms of the close wise. Okay, once again, if you want to get the in-depth, structure of whatever I've shared already during this video, just click the link below, right, and then access the doc. The doc will have the whole written component of everything that I've shared here in the video. If not, if you have other challenges or problems that you'd like me to solve, right, in future videos, right, because I'm creating more videos, if you want me to go about teaching or training you on certain topics, anywhere between marketing, sales, or offer, when it comes to enrolling more students for your business, right, go about commenting whatever videos that you want me to cover, and I'll do my best to actually answer whatever challenges or whatever questions that you have below. Kind of like what I'm doing now, right? It's basically preventing objections, kind of the same. Okay, if not, I'll see you guys in the next video. See ya.